Welcome to Crosspointe.
Welcome to Crosspointe.
Welcome to Crosspointe.
We are an inclusive faith community
seeking to live out the loving, just, and generous way of Jesus.
We are participants in a long tradition
that's less concerned with doctrines and dogma that demand total agreement,
but a life to be lived, enjoyed, and given away to others.
What unites us is a growing awareness that life is precious.
That we are made by love in order to love.
This community is comprised of and affirms the entire human family.
Regardless of race, age, creed,
physical abilities, marital or economic status,
gender identity, or sexual orientation.
So, if you're curious and have come to see,
if you are tired and have come to rest,
if you are grateful and have come to share,
if you are wounded and have come to heal,
if you're joyful and have come to celebrate,
if you are uprooted and have come to belong,
welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Crosspointe. We're glad you're here. Actually, we're glad that you've invited us there into your house, your phone, your computer, your TV, whatever device in your home that we're trapped in. We're happy to be trapped in it. So thank you for being with us. We're going to try to have as normal as possible, a Crosspointe service experience as we can, given the circumstances that we're all in. So we're going to sing a couple of songs together. Jonathan's going to give us some announcements and some updates. There might be a special guest showing up today. And then Steve is going to give us a message in our Sermon on the Mount series. So it's good to be together. Glad you're here. Let's start by singing together. Stephen Smith recorded himself leading this song from the inside out. So let's sing together.
Times I've failed, still your mercy remains. And should I stumble again, still I'm caught in your grace everlasting. Your light will shine when all else fades, never ending. Your glory goes beyond all things. Justice and praise become my embrace, to love you from the inside out. Above all out, Lord. Let justice and praise become my embrace, to love you from the inside out, everlasting. Your light will shine when all else fades, never-ending. Your glory goes beyond all fame, and the cry of my heart is to bring you praise from the inside out. Lord, my soul cries out, my heart and my soul, I give you control. Consume me from the inside out, Lord. Let justice and praise become my embrace, to love you from the inside out, everlasting. Your light will shine when all else fades, never ending. Your glory goes beyond all fame, and the cry of my heart is to bring you praise from the inside out. Lord, my soul cries out, everlasting. Your light will shine when all else fades, never ending. Your glory goes beyond all fame, and the cry of my heart is to bring you praise from the inside out. Lord, my soul cries out from the inside out. Lord, my soul cries out.
There's obviously a lot that's difficult for all of us right now, with all of our regular routines being interrupted. And as we look forward, we have a lot more questions than we have answers. And there's also an opportunity for us to learn a lot about ourselves and about each other. So if we pay attention, what is it that we can notice that we otherwise would tend to overlook because we're just going about our familiar schedules and patterns? One thing for me is that I've had a front row seat to watch my wife, Cece, as a mom. She's amazing. Weeks ago, she had us all stocked up and ready for this extended time of quarantine that we're in now. And honestly, that started before this was just a blip on my radar screen, honestly. Cece loves our kids, and she sacrifices every day in many ways to make sure that they're okay, to take care of them, to keep them safe, and also to help them navigate this uncertain time that we're in right now. So I've been watching her, and I've also watched our society. I've observed us in how really we're in an unprecedented situation. And in some ways, we are all like kids trying to navigate the world for the first time, because things are suddenly different. And our habits and our ways of living in the world have all had to shift. And the answers that we've had for how to do life, a lot of them don't work right now. And so I look at us and I see us bickering. I see, just like siblings, I see us vacillating from moment to moment between trying to look out for each other and take care of each other in one moment, and then just being plain self-serving in other moments. And the thought occurred to me as I was walking this week, we need a mother. And God in the scriptures mostly is described in masculine terms. And this is no surprise because of the patriarchal world that the scriptures came out of. But also in scripture, God is described using feminine imagery. Their feminine metaphors are used to imagine God. For example, God is described as sheltering and nurturing like a mother bird, as a hen gathers her chicks under her wing, like an eagle that stirs up its nest and hovers over its young, that spreads its wings to catch them and carries them aloft. God is also described as a fierce protector, like a mother bear, like a bear robbed of her cubs, I will attack. And as a human mother, as a mother comforts her child, so will I comfort you. For a long time I, God, have kept silent, but now, like a woman in childbirth, I cry out, I gasp, and I pant. And I was reminded of this poem by Alison Woodard entitled God Our Mother. And it goes like this. To be a mother is to suffer, to travail in the dark, stretched and torn, exposed in half-naked humiliation, subjected to indignities for the sake of new life. To be a mother is to say, this is my body, broken for you. And in the next instant, in response to the created's primal hunger, this is my body, take and eat. To be a mother is to self-empty, to neither slumber nor sleep. So attuned you are to cries in the night, offering the comfort of yourself and assurances of I'm here. To be a mother is to weep over the fighting and exclusions and wounds your children inflict on one another, to long for reconciliation and brotherly love, and when all is said and done, to gather all parties, the offender and the offended, into the folds of your embrace and to whisper in their ears that they are beloved. To be a mother is to be vulnerable, to be misunderstood, railed against, blamed for the heartaches of the bewildered children who don't know where else to cast the angst they feel over their own existence in this perplexing universe. To be a mother is to hoist onto your hips those on whom your image is imprinted, bearing the burden of their weight, rejoicing in their returned affection, delighting in their wonder, bleeding in the presence of their pain. To be a mother is to be accused of sentimentality one moment and injustice the next, to be the receiver of endless demands, absorber of perpetual complaints, reckoner of bottomless needs. To be a mother is to be an artist, a keeper of memories past, weaver of stories untold, visionary of lives looming ahead. To be a mother is to be the first voice listened to and the first disregarded. To be a mender of broken creations and comforter of the distraught children whose hands wrought them. To be a mother is to be a touchstone and the source, bestower of names, influencer of identities, life giver, life shaper, empath, healer, and original love. That's God Our Mother, a poem by Alison Woodard. So early in the morning, one morning this past week, I was taking a walk, all of these thoughts rolling around in my head, and I found myself praying. And so I wonder, would you pray with me now? God, right now, we don't need a king who sits far above on a throne, removed from what's happening in the world. We need a mother God on the ground who's able to take care of her children, to protect them, to shelter them, to nurture them, and to guide them as they navigate an unfamiliar world and an unforgiving world sometimes. So God, we thank you that you can bear our burdens, that you can hoist us up on your hips and bear our weight, that you can bear the burdens that are too heavy for us to carry, that you are able to take it when we rail against you, when out of our confusion and our pain and our fear. So we pray all these things in the name of Christ. Amen. Let's sing a song called Beautiful Love.
Beautiful love, with arms of a mother, holding her daughter, guiding her son. Beautiful love, strength of a woman, birthing her children and bearing their pain. Every breath that you breathe, every song that you sing, strong and gentle, wild and controlled. Every move makes a sound, every tear feeds the ground. Strong and gentle, beautiful love, beautiful love, with eyes full of comfort and hands that have nurtured. Your house is our home. Beautiful love, dressed in all wisdom, all God and all human, all light and all love. Every breath that you breathe, every song that you sing, strong and gentle, wild and controlled. Every move makes a sound, every tear feeds the ground. Strong and gentle, beautiful love. Strong and gentle, beautiful love. Strong and gentle, beautiful love.
Hey, Crosspointe family, it's Jonathan. Whether you're scattered somewhere in the triangle or across the country or in the globe and you find yourself sheltering in place, We are so grateful that we have this opportunity to gather this way virtually and stay connected as a Crosspointe community. There's so many really awesome things that are going on. One of those has been the food distribution that you guys have continued to be a part of. I'll put a picture up here so that you can see on the screen of just how many groceries that you guys have brought in. We've just been overwhelmed by your generosity and by the generosity of the community around us, and in partnership with the YMCA, just how many people we've been able to provide food for. And that's just because of you guys being amazing. And so thank you for that. We've also had a Family Promise this week, which is the organization we partner with to provide campus and housing for homeless families. And so we've had 3 families on site with us this week. And so for all of you volunteers who have provided groceries and provided dinner and watched kids and cleaned every single inch of the campus in these rooms to provide such a great environment for these families, thank you. It has made a world of difference, and these families have been overwhelmed by your generosity, by your care, by your love for them. One of the families, the father had surgery unexpectedly this week, and so I can't imagine what they would have done without our community just being around them, and so many of you just being able to love them and walk with them. And so his wife and him were able to go to the hospital. None of the children were allowed to go to the hospital during this time for understandable reasons, but that left them with 1-year-old twins and 2 elementary school kids that had to get taken care of. And people from Crosspointe, you guys stepped up to love them and care for them and watch them for hours and hours and hours, and just to provide a safe environment for them. And so for a family right away to trust a group of people with their kids in such a critical moment, man, it speaks to who you guys are and the way that you love and the effect that has on people. So thank you. You'll be glad to hear that Family Promise, the organization we work with, has some apartments in town, and that they are moving all of these families that have been staying with us into those apartments during the remainder of this shelter in place and outbreak time, so they don't have to keep moving from place to place. And so we were able to provide them, because of your generosity, grocery gift cards, and we were able to stock their pantries in their new apartments with tons of food. So they're going to be well taken care of here for the next several weeks. And so thank you. Thank you for continuing to contribute in that way. Those contributions have also gone to pay people's rent in the last week. We've paid several families rent both inside and outside of the Crosspointe community. We've been able to pay utility bills and lots of different other things just to help people and to help get them through some really difficult and challenging times. And so just thank you again for your continued generosity in funding Crosspointe, because I want you to know it's going to really, really good stuff, and we're looking forward to being able to do more. If you want to continue to link arms with us financially, for those of you who already contribute every week or every other week or however that you do that, I'd encourage you to keep doing that. The ways that you can do that is you can go to crosspointe.org, hit the contribute button. It's usually in the top right-hand corner, and there's going to be a contribute button right under that. Hit that button. It'll take you less than 30 seconds to be able to set up a one-time financial gift or recurring financial gifts, however you want to do that. There's also PayPal options on there. There's text options on there. If it's easier for you to text, then you can just text to this number, 77977. So text that number, 77977, and text the word crosspointenc. That's Crosspointe with an E, NC. And right on your phone, it'll send you a link that will take you directly to the bank contribution page. And again, it's very easy. It's very simple. Text that number and you can contribute right there on your phone right now if you want to. And we also do snail mail and any other way. We have people that are checking the mail on campus. And so if that's easier for you, whatever that looks like, if you want to continue to link arms with us, please do that. Also want to let you know that if you need help during this time, and that's a lot of people, and so you're not alone in that. And there's no shame in that. This is what family does. Family helps one another. If you need help, go to crosspointe.org/help, and you can fill out the form there, and we'll have people that will follow up with you very soon that will figure out a way, the best that we can, to come alongside you and help you during these times. Now, I also want to just keep you up to date on ways to stay informed with our community. The easiest way continues to be our website at crosspointe.org. You can also sign up there to get our emails that go out maybe once, twice, a couple times a week that will just have information about ways that we're connecting during the week, gatherings that we're going to be having online. And so you can go to crosspointe.org/enews, ENEWS, and about 30 seconds there, it'll take you to a place that you can sign up for that. We won't spam you with other stuff. It'll just help keep you up to date and informed about what's going on. And we'll also be sending out a weekly schedule. So this Sunday afternoon, later on today, we'll send out a online schedule through that email that has all the different online gatherings that we'll be having during this upcoming week. And so whether those are Zoom calls or whether those are online chats, different videos for you guys to engage with, all that information will be on there. So you'll have a weekly schedule so you can go ahead and mark your calendars if any of those interest you. Now, in a moment, Steve's going to get ready to bring us our teaching for the day. Really excited about it. It's really good stuff. But before he does, 3 quick things I want to highlight for you. If you have any questions about the message or things that we've covered here today, then you can put that in the live chat and we'll find ways to respond to you during that. Or there's also a link that we'll put up there here in just a moment so that you can ask questions. You can ask questions about the teaching, or you can ask questions about lots of different things, or this would really help us out. If there's things that you would like us to discuss or to cover in the coming weeks online, some of our midweek gathering times, if you would just ask those questions, raise those topics for us, that would be incredibly helpful. We want to talk about stuff that you want to hear talked about, and the things that you would like us to discuss or elaborate further on, or whatever that is. So you can do it anonymously through that link. Just raise whatever questions, whatever topics that you like, and we'd be more than happy to set up some time to cover those in future video chats coming up. I also just want to send out this picture to you. Hopefully that it's encouraging to you, but there's a picture behind our campus of a flower bed. And back in December, we had our Remember service. And as part of that Remember service, we had people plant bulbs, tulip bulbs in the ground with this hope and belief that, and this reminder that death always gives birth to life. And this metaphor that something has to die in order for new life to happen. And this hope of where you can't see it then, but that hopefully that life gives birth into the future. And so I wanted to show you this picture of what's happening right now behind our campus, since we're not there together right now, but that you can see these tulips that are just blooming out. And this beautiful picture, these metaphors of people, and this picture of saying, yeah, well, I'm going to believe that even in the most difficult circumstances, and when I'm in my grief and in my pain, that there's hope that can get birthed out of that. And so I hope that for all of you who participated in that, that's an encouragement and a reminder to you. But I also hope that in a time like this, where we're going through some really challenging and painful times, that we won't be people that lose hope, and that we'll be people who understand that pain, if we will allow it, and that even death, if we will allow it, of different habits and different things in our life that need to die in different ways and patterns that are destructive and hurtful to one another and to culture and to people and to humanity, that maybe in this season, some of those things can die so that other more beautiful ways of living can give birth to life. And then lastly, I just want to point you to Bonnie Kovacic. And so she wants to give you a message. Bonnie is our director of volunteers, and she is such an incredible person. She's actually started a web episode on our Crosspointe Facebook page, where on a regular basis, she's sharing stories and humor and wit and wisdom and everything else. I hope you will check that out. It's called Bonnie Keeps It Fresh. And she's just a tremendous gift. But she also wanted to have a chance just to speak to you guys this morning. And so I'm going to turn it over to Bonnie now.
Good morning. It's Bonnie coming to you from my breakfast nook this morning. And I am the project manager of volunteers. So if you volunteer at Crosspointe, you probably know me. And if you don't know me, it is high time we got to be good friends. I just wanted to send a message out today to all the volunteers at Crosspointe. And when I've been watching the news, I hear a lot of information about how people are stepping up and people are giving of themselves and people are caring about other people and people are, and how proud they are that people are stepping up. Well, I'm here to tell you that the volunteers at Crosspointe Church, that means you, have always done that. Every Sunday you step up, and every Sunday you give it your best to make us our best. You go far beyond the call of duty in many cases. And I've been going to Crosspointe since day one, over 22 years, I think. I've never done church this way. But then again, you just never know what you're going to be faced with. But I'm proud to say that the leadership of our church provides a way for all of us to get together. And I just want you to know that even though we may not be seeing each other every Sunday morning like I usually see you, I just want you to know that I think about you all the time. And I think about the sacrifices that you give. And I think about how we would not be the church we are without the volunteers that we have. There may be some of you listening to this message right now thinking, well, dog, I want to be a part of that group too. Well, let me tell you, there's going to be plenty of room when the time comes that the doors of being a volunteer swing wide open. And when those doors swing wide open, I'm going to be the one standing there with my pencil and paper in my hand so that I can take your name and your number and your email and I can get in touch with you. Any volunteer that's watching this will probably tell you, just like I tell you from when I joined as a volunteer at Crosspointe, that it is a way to get connected like none other. And it is a way to get to know people, to give back, and to really get involved in a community. And it is a way to help you build a community. And in times like this, we find out what community really means. I can't wait to hug your neck. I can't wait to see you in your position that you serve in on a Sunday morning. And until then, just know I love you, I adore you, I appreciate you, and I'm praying for you. Bye-bye.
For the last several weeks, we've been studying the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5 through 7, and this week we get to the last couple of sentences in the sermon. Jesus says something very interesting, especially considering all the context from what came before. Jesus says, "So, anyone who takes these words of mine and does them is like a wise builder who builds a house on stone, because then the weather shows up and the house survives it. But anybody who hears my words and doesn't do them is a fool. It's somebody who builds a house on sand, because then the weather shows up, the river floods, and the house falls with a great crash." That's the end of the sermon. And it says then that the people who heard him say these things, they were amazed at what he said, because he spoke with authority. Not like the scribes, it says, but he spoke as somebody that had authority. Almost as if to say, the scribes, they know what to say. Jesus seemed to know what he was talking about. So where does he get these, where does he get his legitimacy? Where does he get the authority to say these things? You could say, well, it's because he's God, maybe that's what they were saying. They saw him as God and they're like, well, we have to do what he says. It has to be true, he's God. I don't think that that's what was happening. There was something about the way he spoke that they could tell he knew what he was talking about. He didn't, again, like the scribes, just know what to say. He knew what to do. His words came from somewhere. Well, where did he get this authority? Where did it come from? It's good to remember that Jesus starts his public ministry at about age 30, and up until that point, we have every reason to believe that he grew up under the hardship of his day, the economic and political hardship, lots of poverty and everything that comes with poverty. And then you recall also that just a chapter before the Sermon on the Mount starts, Jesus is tempted, the temptations of Jesus by the devil. And it goes something like this. The devil came to Jesus when he had been fasting for several weeks. He hadn't eaten in days and days. So Jesus is hungry and he's lonely. So the devil says, why don't you just do a trick and turn all these stones into bread? And Jesus won't do it. It's almost like Jesus was saying, yeah, I could do that, but then I would be leveraging power selfishly. And there's a whole bunch of starving people who can't do that. And I'm not going to do that. And they quote scripture to him. He said that the scriptures say, a person shall not live on bread alone, but everything that comes out of the mouth of the divine. So then the devil takes him up to the top of the temple and says, if you want to quote scripture, let's quote scripture. Jump off the temple, because roughly speaking, doesn't that psalm say that you won't get hurt if you make God prove that God is good? You can jump off this thing and the angels will catch you. And wasn't a very good quote of the scriptures. But Jesus says, well, it also says, the scriptures, that you shall not put the Lord your God to the test. So the devil's like, okay, let's max this thing out. And he takes him to this high mountain, so he can from this mountain see all the kingdoms of earth. I don't know if it was a hallucination. I don't know how you see all the kingdoms on earth, but he could. And he said, if you just do things my way, worship me, I'll give you all of this. And Jesus, interestingly, this is probably a whole other conversation, Jesus doesn't say these aren't yours to give. He says, get away from me, Satan, ha-satan in Hebrew, the accuser, the opposition. Get away from me, because you shall worship the Lord God only. So the devil gives up. So what's interesting is Jesus would say yes to all these things later. He waves them off when the devil offers them, but he would say yes to them later. He would obviously eat, and he would obviously put God's goodness and benevolence on display. And we would come to call Jesus the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, a different sort of dominion, to be sure, but he would say yes to these things in one form or another later on. It's almost like the devil is the one in the story offering shortcuts to the exact, well, not the exact, but a very similar outcome, it would seem. And so there's one lesson in this that you could say, well, so when the devil offers you something, say no, and that's easy. As long as you recognize it's the devil offering it, say no. But then there's also this other part of us that, if we're being honest, we could say, well, in real life, if there's an easier way to do something, if you can get to a similar result on a shorter path, why don't you just do that? You know, work smarter, not harder. Because we live in a industrialized society. We're children of the industrial age. And so when we talk about improving things, we're typically talking about making it faster and easier and cheaper. But something in us knows that all the good stuff about being a person, it's not supposed to be easy. There's a hard road that seems necessary. Like, you can put an IKEA table together once you interpret the instructions. You can do that in about, I don't know, an hour. But my friend showed me pictures of a table that he's been working on for a year. And it was something of a whole other caliber than an IKEA table. It was beautiful. And there was something, I don't know what else to say about it other than it just was truer. It was more beautiful. Something down deep inside of us knows that all the best stuff about being a human, there are no shortcuts. But I wonder how many of us have been studying the Bible and listening to sermons and going to lectures, and I mean, we've heard so many sermons, and we've been to seminars and conferences, we've watched TED Talks, we've been part of small group. We've tried for years to be more joyful, to be more loving, more forgiving, more generous, less angry, less short-tempered, less greedy. But many of us we wonder after a while, is this working? Then we look at somebody else and say, it certainly isn't working for them. I mean, they've been doing this thing for 5 years and they're still the exact same jerk or the same whatever. Is this working? And that's in large part because many of us learned, one way or another, we learned that the way to wake up to the divine and become everything you're supposed to be, well, it's about getting things right. All you got to do is get things right. Learn the right things and hang around the right people and go to the right church and go to the right church the right amount of times. Just do things right, and then you'll just pretty quickly become who you're supposed to be. But that's wrong. And some of you a little further down the path, you know that it's wrong. You learned it after a while that that's not actually how it goes. You might even say it goes the opposite of that. What you have to do is you have to do it wrong first. You have to. There's no other way. I'm not prescribing it. I'm just telling you that there's no other way. It has to go really, really badly wrong first. You have to have your heart broken. You have to suffer pain. You have to get disappointed. You have to have plans torn out of your hands. You have to over and over and over fall down and skin your knee. You have to. You have to endure pain. And you have to do things, we have to do things that Jesus didn't have to do. Because we also have to wake up to how much pain we've caused, how many hearts we've broken, how much disappointment and suffering we've caused. Maybe that's a good definition for sin. All the suffering that you cause when you didn't have to. There's no other way. You have to do these things. It has to go really badly before it can go well. And this is the only way to wake up and to grow and to deepen and all those ways of describing it. There's no other way. There's no negotiating. There's no fast track. I mean, some people do it faster than others, but You have to do it that way. You have to walk that path for a long, long time, stumbling through it before you can start to wake up. And so when Jesus says the wise builder is the one that builds on the rock, he's saying the wise builder is the one that does it with a longer view in mind. But the foolish builder just wants to get it done. The foolish builder builds on sand. And look, building on sand, it's a lot easier. You can level off sand with your hand. You can almost dig with your hands down into the sand to put some posts. You can get it done pretty quickly, but then life shows up and difficult people show up and pain shows up. The weather of reality beats against that house and it can't stand because it wasn't designed to do anything but be finished. It wasn't designed to be lived in. Jesus says the wise builder, those who don't just hear my words, but then do them. And this is far more than hearing or reading Jesus' words. He could have saved himself a lot of headaches if the whole point was just to make this about words. He could have just emailed us. Or we could just keep going to Bible study and hoping that if you just keep reading the Bible, that's what will change you and develop you. It's more than that. The wise builder puts the words into practice. Puts the words into practice and builds something that it's a lot harder. It comes with a lot more difficulty and it takes a lot longer, but when life shows up and difficulty shows up and pain shows up, that house stands. It's just as beautiful. It's just as strong. No matter how lacking in beauty or lacking in goodness the world around it is, no matter what's happening with the storms, the house stands. And in some ways you can hear something like this and think, well, this is more pressure. You're saying in order to become the person I'm supposed to be, it has to be even harder? Life's hard enough. This feels like a lot of pressure. But if you really think about it, it takes some pressure off. Because it's expected by anyone who's paying attention, and maybe especially by the Christ, the very mind of the divine, it's expected that you're gonna mess up a lot and for a long time. You're going to suffer and cause suffering. You're gonna wake up by degrees, not over the course of months, but decades. And that takes some pressure off. This feeling of, well, no wonder this is not going the way I thought it was going to, because it's not an IKEA table. It's something more profound, more beautiful than that. And so this is why we have to do this together. This is why we have to walk this path together and encourage each other and remind each other to what it means to stay on the path and to humbly accept some feedback and criticism that says, hey, the path you said you wanted to walk, you're not on it right now. You don't seem to be on it. Let's talk about that. Let's help each other. We have to do it together. And so that's what we're trying to do as a church, and not just Crosspointe, but lots of churches. That's who we're trying to be together, is to be people who have the narrower, longer, harder road in front of us together, to walk it together, because there's just really no other way to walk it. There's no shortcuts, and there's no way to do it by yourself. And so that's what we're trying to do as a church, because when Jesus was done speaking, the people had heard sermons before. They'd heard prophets speak before, but when Jesus was done talking, they followed him. They didn't just listen, they followed him, because he spoke like somebody who knew what he was talking about.
Welcome home.